All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Mondays Down South. First time in a while, most certainly. I think we'll save the more formal kickoff to the new season. I don't even know what number it is at this point once we have Zach back on the line and we're a little closer to opening kickoff from the NFL. But we are getting to you with a little fantasy football content as everyone starts to settle into draft season here throughout August. We figured Cy and I would come on and give you some content. So again, we'll save the more formal season kickoff for later in the month, but I will pass it over to my partner in crime here for his intro.
Yo, how's it going, y'all? Welcome back. I can't believe that it's football season already, but the reality is it also feels like it's been way too long. I miss the Sundays. I miss fantasy football, but the draft's around the corner, and I think it's the ideal time for us to give you a nice mock draft episode. I think last year we were a little bit later, but this year you guys can watch and maybe steal some of our picks, especially the ones of you that are drafting with us, which is going to be quite a few of you, hopefully. So with that being said, man, it's great to be back. Any big things that we've missed in the time that we've been gone? I mean, obviously we've missed a lot, but at least notably recently, we've had the MLB trade deadline. We've had, LeBron's going to 76ers. We've had some huge storylines. We've had, with the NFL, obviously the Myles Garrett trade, Aaron Donald potentially coming back. You were just talking about the Bears relocating. We got crazy stuff. Anything I'm missing in there? Tennis. You've been watching a lot of been watching a lot of tennis. I think our boy Alcaraz is back now. Everything's good, bro.
Yeah. No, I think you covered the highlights. There's certainly going to be a lot of NFL stuff that we'll talk to as we progress through August and do some previews of the AFC and NFC. And unfortunately, our baseball seasons haven't gone quite as well as I think either of us would have hoped. So that's the big bummer. But otherwise, been an entertaining season.
I'm ready, man. I think if you want to just get going, we can. So today, the idea is we're doing a fantasy football draft. I think we're just going to give you one today, especially based on timing and everything like that. We're doing a sleeper one. I think it's the best format for all of you that are trying to quickly do drafts with AI. I will be honest, a couple things up front. I haven't even discussed with Evan yet. Things to look out for is that sleepers sometimes will be a little bit weird with the botting, where some guys will go, I think, maybe a little bit earlier than I think they would, and then you'll have people available that you wouldn't expect to have available. So don't always assume these guys will be available. And then the other note that I would tell you guys is down the road, when you go further into drafts, if you're doing the draft a quarterback late or a tight end late strategy, one thing that happens a lot in these mock drafts is that people, or I should say the bots, will draft as if people were going to take two quarterbacks and two tight ends before the 10th round sometimes. And that's just not usually accurate for a lot of our leagues. So when you're doing the late quarterback draft strategy, just keep in mind we'll typically have better QBs available late, and same with tight ends. So those are just two things up front I wanted to kind of mention before we get into it, Evan.
Yep. The other note I'll make on my end is I'm coming in quite cold here. Haven't done any mock drafts yet. Cy, I'm sure you're in a different boat. I'm sure you've been preparing here as we're almost in mid-August already. But so this is cold for me, but I'm sure you're more in the weeds than I. So it should be interesting in that regard. But I guess we're gonna pick a random spot. So I'll just start the draft and see what we get.
Let's do it.
I feel like we should, regardless of where we get. Where we get 10?
We got 10.
Okay. So let's before we get to our pick, who's your 1-1 this year? Because that's I think an interesting.
That's a great question. These are things we should talk about, and obviously, I think maybe make the timer a little bit longer so we can actually have conversations as we do this. One of my big things is Jahmyr Gibbs. It's hard for me not to take him first because. Let me rephrase that. I think Bijan Robinson seems to be everyone's first before the season had progressed. But with David Montgomery no longer on the Detroit Lions, and with how productive Jahmyr Gibbs has been the last couple of years, even with him splitting more carries and then slowly year over year getting more touches, whether it's through the air or on the ground, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy I'm actually going to more lean towards this year. I also think I trust that offense a little bit more with the Falcons maybe not being the most ideal situation. I do think Tua will be good there. I think they'll be a little bit better this year. But I think if I was to pick one or the other, you're literally picking at straws. They're both amazing. I'm gonna go Gibbs slightly more than Bijan. What would you do?
Yeah, I have a personal bias towards Gibbs. I think with this one, it's you can go either way and not really make a wrong choice. So I'll probably go to my personal bias towards Gibbs and all the things you mentioned about Montgomery being gone, but also Tyler Algier's gone from Bijan's, specifically the goal line usage. So and Tua loves to check down to the running back. So
Sure.
I think there's definitely pros in terms of the situation being a little different for each of them, but my personal bias tends to be towards Gibbs. So
Yeah.
that's probably what I do.
And then the other thing
Uh,
I think we should address going in is like with draft strategy coming up, first round, right? Like we were given the 10th pick, but regardless of pick, one thing that I'm personally trying to do very much this year more than any other year is I want to at least get one running back early, ideally in the first round. Well, ideally in the first two rounds, it depends. Like if you get a great wide receiver, I'm not going to say no to that. But this year, I'm noticing, and I've seen this across other drafts and videos and things I've been watching, where the analysis is showing that running backs, like the top 24 to like beyond that, all the way to 48 running backs are going way earlier on average than most years. So if you wait in drafts this year, you'll see that you're not getting a lot of value late for running backs. And so it feels more than ever like kind of back to the old days where you really need a running back early. So that's something I'm really thinking about when I'm given certain draft positions in here. So yeah.
I got you. So we start up at looking at 10, and we have JSN as top available according to Sleeper, and then a large group of running backs. So I'll start the conversation going in terms of, obviously at this 10, you kind of have the two quick picks to a degree. Just looking at the board here, I feel like what I would do, given that there's a pretty, I would say, substantial drop off from a wide receiver standpoint between JSN and say Drake London as next best available, and then you have a huge batch of running backs in the middle there. I would be looking to lock in JSN with our first pick, knowing that one of these really, really great running backs will be available to us in the second round.
Yeah,
That's what I'd be looking to do.
yeah, if I'm being honest with you, that's a no-brainer to me because I think,
Yeah.
first of all, normally you're not getting JSN there. He's usually going
Right.
ahead of multiple of the guys in front of us. So this is one of those situations that said coming into the draft where sometimes Sleeper will give you a pick that you're normally not going to have. There is no way we're getting JSN available at 10. This would have been a more fun decision if we had, let's say, CD Lamb versus JSN, but I probably still would have gone any of the receivers that went ahead of him before I went running back because I think after JSN, there's a tier break. I know most of the people listening know what tier breaks are. To me, JSN is in that tier with Puka and Jamar Chase, and then it's the next 4 to 5 guys are all in the same tier to me. So after JSN, there's definitely a tier break. So it's definitely JSN.
Yeah, I think the interesting spot here, as you mentioned with Sleeper going buck wild a little bit here, is like if it's Justin Jefferson at this pick as the top wide receiver available versus a James Cook or others, do you consider going to running back instead?
I consider it if Justin Jefferson's gone. Basically, he's the last one that I would probably definitively take before going there. Now, the other thing I would say though is if let's say Christian McCaffrey or Jonathan Taylor was available and Justin Jefferson was available at that pick, then that's a different conversation. I'd probably do that. But I think James Cook is great, but I don't actually think he is that much of a higher tier than some of the other guys going after him. And I think that'll kind of come to play with our next pick. So if we do JSN now, let's kind of see what happens with running back at the next one.
So basically, you would do any of these receivers in this
Any of
spot.
these receivers, unless one of those running backs before was available, which they're not always, but sometimes you'll get lucky.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so JSN or whoever the actual receiver you would get there is, and then
They like the running backs. Dang. All right. But I'm
Yeah.
not mad at that because I personally love Chase Brown this year. I think he had a great year last year after starting off a bit slow, but then the idea that he might actually get a healthy Joe Burrow this year means that his targets and receptions are going to be even higher. So I like him a lot, but I'm not mad at the idea of taking Devon A-Chain. I think his usage is going to be crazy in Miami. The only concern there is they might not score a lot of points, so you just need him to be, the elite talent that he already is, and we know he is. But we're not. I just don't know that we're going to get like the level of upside that we might have gotten in years prior with A Chain. But I'd still like him a lot as a guy here.
Yeah, those are the two obvious choices. I love them both. The HN one is so interesting to me because I think there's a strong argument that you can push him up higher on this board because, like, the usage is just going to be, something we almost never see from a running back. I think, based on some of the quotes out of Dolphins camp, but the efficiency could be so horrible
That's what I'm worried about.
with that offense. So it's like, how do you balance the two? Um, I would lean HN personally.
I think
I mean, the PPR versus non PPR, obviously big difference because a lot of these are going to be reception. So it depends on your league. We're in half PPR here, so it neutralizes it. But
I think I lean A Chain as well. So I think that's who we should go with. But I don't think what I think is actually funny is I think Chase Brown is becoming kind of like a steal in the late second round. So if he's available there, I'm typically taking him. But I'm good with A Chain. I think it's funny because this is one of those situations where we took JSN and 4 running backs went immediately. But there's a world where I might have considered A Chain over Hampton, for example. Like that's a conversation that we could have had. So
oh yeah, I am fading Hampton at that spot in
are
a
you okay?
major way. That's like almost a no chance I'm ever getting Hampton if he's going this high.
Okay. But you're saying you're fading Hampton. Would you have taken Jonty there?
I love Ashton Genty. Yeah,
I like him a lot.
him and Achan are both guys. I mean, Achan, there's a lot more risk and kind of confusion there, but like, I mean, Genty's another one. You could. I mean, 12 is pretty good, but that you could push him higher up that board.
Before we make our next pick, I think it's worth having a conversation about what we see going on in the draft. Here's an interesting situation here with Trey McBride and Brock Bowers. I've noticed in drafts they're going around a similar tier. I think some people are taking Bowers ahead of him. I love the idea of getting one of those two and drafts, assuming you have a running back. I can't do wide receiver, tight end, but if I have a running back, I'm open to the idea of taking him based on what wide receivers are available because I really do think there's such a big tier break between those guys. I like McBride actually in his own tier. I think Bowers is probably like a high 1B for me, but I think Trey McBride is like by far and away like my tight end one this year. So I like him a lot. I think. What are you thinking now?
Yeah, this is. I would imagine this is a spot where we can't really afford to leave this turn without another running back. Is that
I agree. I
based
100%
on
agree.
your mocking? Would
Yeah.
be fair to say. So I think with that in mind, kind of similar to the last time, you kind of have to lock in probably Javante here. Is what I
I
would say.
What's funny is I don't know that everyone's big on him. I love Javante this year. That passing offense is going to be elite. He was so good last year, and that was what CD Lamb hurt a lot. The amount of touchdown opportunities he's going to get this year is crazy, and he rushes for a lot of yards. I like Javante Williams a lot, man. I think at the end of the third round, and for me, there's a tier break after that. I'm not seeing a running back like if Cam Scatterbo and Bucky Irving are the next options. I don't dislike them, but I think Javante Williams is notably more like safe for me, and he's a high floor guy, so I want to take him.
Yeah, I like the floor paired with Achan. Scadaboo's probably a fade for me at that value, although with the running back being a little bit weak this year, maybe you have to compensate. But I'm not a Scadaboo guy, and Bucky.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a Bucky bounce back this year for sure, but definitely I think the floor of Javante is, you can't pass that up here.
Yeah, I'm kind of unsure about Bucky this year, to be honest. I would
Yeah.
definitely take Cam over Bucky. I think Cam's upside is way higher, but definitely Javante here. We're going to take Javante, and here we go. Let's see what we get.
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with it. There's still, oh man, this is a really good receiver spot here.
It's a good receiver spot. We also have an elite tight end opportunity here too, depending on.
Yeah.
So here, let's talk strategy here. My thing when you have a single flex is that you have a little bit more leeway in terms of drafting a quarterback or a tight end a little bit earlier, especially from a lot of the analysis, which comes down to because filling that one flex spot is not that difficult. When you have two flex spots, that's when it's harder to prioritize a onesie position in that way. I'm not mad at the idea of going Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren here if they were available. But if you feel really good about like a Garrett Wilson or a Lad McConkey or whoever you think there, I'm open to that. I just think like I don't know. Some part of me is because we have JSN feels comfortable with the idea of maybe going tight end here, unless there's something that really stands out to you.
I think there's too much receiver value here for me. I'm definitely not considering Tyler Warren. I just don't think the ceiling is high enough.
Sure. Okay.
And Colston, uh, I think tight end's pretty deep this year, to be honest with you. So
Fair
I'm not.
enough.
I mean, I think he's. I do think he will be good, but I don't know if I love him. This is maybe a little rich. And I'm a big Garrett Wilson guy. I think Geno Smith,
I
he's
do
a
love
terrible quarterback, but like he can sustain. My concern with Garrett is like he does kind of have the in and out of the lineup health stuff, especially considering he plays for the Jets and on the MetLife turf. But I love the player. I think Zay Flowers could explode this year, low key.
Yeah.
And then I don't hate Ikbuka either. I Part of me would debate Zay Flowers here, a little more upside maybe.
Yeah.
Is maybe where I would go, but I'm a huge Garrett guy as well. So um,
I don't dislike that because I think that so I love Garrett Wilson. And I've always loved Garrett Wilson. I think the Geno Smith passing, as you were referring to, will Geno Smith's ability to pass to him will definitely be beneficial to him. I actually have been taking him or players like him a lot in this range. And that's why I was curious about the tight end because I was curious to see what happens if you do take a tight end here in terms of what you end up with as your second receiver. But let's do Garrett because I want to like I honestly think he still has upside here. Like I think he has a very like he will at least be worth this in my opinion, but I think he can be worth even more. So let's do Garrett. And then I'm curious to see what we end up with tight end. I keep taking tight end late, which is why I'm maybe a little bit more like, a little bit more open to the idea of taking an else player.
yeah, man, 4.8 for Zay is really good. It's really good. Look at my boy JMO getting to 4.10. Had a boy. Judkins 5.5. I like that. Parker Washington 5.9. Heck yes. Some of these are so fun. All right.
What do you
We're
think?
back in we're back in the fifth. We got two running backs, two receivers. I For me here in the mindset of, not risking it with running back, I like DeAndre Swift here, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm I'm a huge Kyle Monangai guy, to repeat that, but I don't think this is the year that anything changes from last year, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think the floor is really strong there. Jadarian Price makes me nervous just because, like, it's early camp. I get it, but like with the pass blocking and receiving chops of George Holani, he's gonna play a lot. So obviously, early season, it makes a lot of sense for Price to be Kenneth Walker and Holani to be Charbonnet until Charbs comes back. But he just as a rookie, it makes me a little bit nervous. But you also get a lot more upside with that, so I think you could go either way.
Yeah.
And I mean, Drake May here too.
I
You know,
actually so I have two people I'm looking at here, and that's actually Joe Burrow, and Jadarian Price. Joe Burrow at the end of the fifth round, in a single flex league, could be like a league winner type player if he's healthy because you're getting he still has Jamar Chase and T Higgins, and that offense would be stupid, and he'll throw you like 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. I'd feel very confident in that, based on what he's done before. But my other thought is I like Jadarian because I don't like DeAndre's upside, man. Like I think the Bears offense will be great, so I think DeAndre Swift will score touchdowns. But if I'm Ben Johnson, I'm giving Kyle Monangai like half the carries this year because I like Monangai so much, which is where I'm not like I would be more okay with taking DeAndre Swift here if we didn't get Javonte Williams before. But for me, if I have a floor guy, I want a ceiling guy because that's how I win leagues, right? Like I don't think we win leagues by having too many floor guys, and I just don't think Swift has a high ceiling. So that's kind of where if we're gonna go running back here, it's Jadarian Price to me. If not, I'm looking at receiver. Like I like Roma Dunze a lot. I like Christian Watson a lot. Guys like that give you a ton of upside here, given changes to offense, a bounce back candidates. I like those two a lot. So I don't know. That's four options from me. If any of those stand out to you.
Yeah, no, that analysis makes sense. I'm just looking at who running back is at the next spot. I mean, I don't hate the idea of going quarterback, but I think we're torn on which quarterback to take. I think
You leaning more Drake?
yeah.
Well, here's my concern with Drake. I still think he'll have very good numbers this year, and I think he's going to run well. I think where he's going, he's priced a little high because of the fact that he played a very easy schedule last year, and I think his stats against bad teams were way better than his stats against good teams, which obviously is true for all quarterbacks. But for him, there was like an even bigger drop off when it was like against good versus bad teams. Getting AJ Brown will obviously be huge for him, so that is a benefit. But if both are healthy, I think Joe Burrow's passing ability and his ability to throw for a ton of touchdowns is a bit more enticing to me because just the last season he was healthy, he was like what, a top two, top like four quarterback, maybe top five, I don't know, something in that range. He was definitively elite in that year, so that's why I lean him a little bit. But I'm not mad at Joe.
Yeah, he's just Mr. What If for me though. It's the same every year. It's like, oh, if he's healthy, well, he never is. They can't block for him.
Well, that's true.
Or if Chase gets hurt, it's he's like very volatile to small changes in his environment. I guess is my point.
I feel like there's a decent number of receivers that would be available with our next pick. I'd be happy with. So if we can't agree on quarterback, I'm not.
Ugh.
There is someone down there I really like. I think I'm not mad at the idea of us going one of the running backs here if we want to, because I like some of the receivers available at the next pick. Then
Yeah, I definitely like one of them. I'll have a ton I love. I mean, your analysis on Jadarian Price, I think, was sound. So I think if we wanted to snag him,
yeah,
and then are we going quarterback or are we going with one of these receivers? Because there are a
I
few
think
receivers here.
I think we go Jadarian, and I think we go receiver here. That's my opinion.
I think.
There's a lot of good quarterbacks still left. So I'm not the only reason I thought Burrow is I think he kind of fell to us, but otherwise I wouldn't even think about it.
Um, okay, Rome or Christian?
This is tough, bro.
Yeah.
I think I'm big on the Bears offense this year, but I think Christian Watson is really good, and I think a healthy season with him as the number one in Green Bay gives him a lot of upside. I lean Christian only because Rome Odunze has Luther Burden that he's competing with, and I think Luther Burden there's a world where he beats him out as the number one receiver. So that's my only hesitation. But I really like these two are like the same value to me. Like I genuinely like I'm torn. It's a toss up. I'll let you decide on that one.
Yeah, I'm leaning Christian as well. I just think maybe more upside, maybe. But Rome, for me, last year, I feel like he went a little quiet in a lot of those games.
He started real hot and then just
Right.
completely dropped off. I
So
do
I don't
expect
love
their
that.
offense to be a lot better, but yeah, I think I would lean Christian. I like him a lot.
See, so now this is if there was one guy on the board and there's actually a bonus second guy now, that is going to make for an interesting discussion. That if they fell to this pick, then I think we should have taken a quarterback above. Just give it. Well, and to your point earlier about single flex.
Yeah, I think
Um,
there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this range, but I'm not. But there's so many good quarterbacks left. I'm actually not even really that worried about it.
yeah, it's
Um,
so easy to get a quarterback. Well,
look
one of those other ones.
what
I mean, it would have been nice to have one of those guys now looking at the spot. Unless you're, I mean, you do have Dak on the board here, but
I mean,
seeing
Dak is like.
receiver.
I think Dak, like, I will die on this hill because last year I also drafted him in like every draft I could get him where I didn't take QB early. Dak is by far and away the best value in fantasy football quarterback. I don't understand how he can consistently goes as late as he does when all he does is put up numbers. Like I just don't get it. But teach your own. I think people
Yeah.
are like obviously prioritizing running quarterbacks, and they should. They're very good and they give you a high floor and high ceiling. But Dak is like you could throw for 45 touchdowns this year, man. It's insane.
Yeah. So I like this pick this turn here a lot. I think there's good options at running back and wide receiver, but the problem is we haven't attacked one of the onesies yet. So I think, given how this played out, I would have loved to have done one of those earlier, but obviously you don't know how the board's going to fall. So
Exactly.
Um, so my guy here was Michael Wilson that I was hoping to get at this spot, but then Marvin Harrison Jr. also has fallen.
Mhm.
So it creates a very interesting dilemma between those two guys. And then Manungai, I mentioned I don't like him to make as big a leap as I think people are hoping for, but I do think as an RB4, it's a good spot for him. And Jonathan Brooks too. And
Yeah.
even RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins is already hurt here in camp, so RJ Harvey I think becomes an interesting option. I
Could
mean,
you go down just a little bit? I feel fairly confident on who I would pick here, but I'm just curious to see what else is available. Receivers. But no, I think the pick here for me, without a doubt in my mind, is Marvin Harrison. I mean, I get Michael Wilson might be the better one potentially this year, but the fact that he's going where he's going and like they have not given up on him, and I think the idea is to try to get him more involved in the offense this year. Like they're not giving up on him. I think him going where he is, and I think he will be the number one. It just feels like a value pick to me.
yeah, this is so interesting how this fell because I do think the what I'll say is the correct pick is an Arizona wide receiver,
Yeah.
but it's up to you to determine which of these guys is going to be the number one this year. But I think I actually would maybe go Michael Wilson, but like I said, I think it's kind of tough to turn down Marvin Harrison passing
Yeah,
here. But
it's a good he's available in a good spot from here. I would have been happy to take Wilson if like I I think people might be a little too high on Wilson, not because I don't think he could be better, but because he finished the season strong last year. And I think there's a typical thing with fantasy where people will see a guy do well for like 4 weeks at the end of the year and be like, oh, this guy's gonna be amazing. But I don't know. I think like, teams reset, there's new offensive schemes, things like that. There needs to be like something about it. And I just like Marvin Harrison a little bit more. That's my opinion. Yeah.
can't buzz is hot on Michael Wilson. I just think I always liked him too. So I actually think getting him in this round as a borderline non-starter is just insane to me. But obviously the same logic applies to Marvin Harrison. So um,
I just
well,
think he's getting more targets. That's really what it comes into for me there.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
I think he's going to get more targets. Wilson might do more with those targets, though.
Well, Marvin Harrison is going to drop 20% of his targets, so not 20%, but
He's a little
um,
better about that.
and then I mean,
You could take Michael Wilson again.
that's huge. Well, that's the thing is then like I like a bunch of these running backs here, but
Yep.
then you also have to consider where you're getting quarterbacks and tight end.
I still feel very comfortable with the quarterback position. There's a lot of guys still available. And if you really look at it, a lot of teams have already taken their quarterback. So I'm going to treat this like it's, we're doing an actual draft with one of our leagues. No one would be taking a second quarterback here. And there's only what, like two teams that don't have a quarterback. So I actually would be very comfortable taking someone like a Jonathan Brooks here if we see a lot of value in that. Or if you want to go really high upside, but may not be as usable early in the year, maybe like a Blake Corum.
or RJ Harvey. I'm not even the biggest RJ Harvey guy, but like Dobbins being hurt already in camp is a big concern to me.
That
I
is
don't know
true.
much.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
know much about Jonah Coleman personally.
Yeah.
So I might need someone that's smarter than I to fill me in on what kind of player he is and the potential he has. But like, yeah, I mean, Dobbins already being hurt is a big deal.
Do you know how
The
long he's
two,
down? Do you know what the injury is?
it's like soft tissue. So like, I mean, he probably will be fine week one, but it's like that does it nag him again? Like it's just like, I mean, this is Dobbins we're talking about. So
He
and
does
there's
get.
already I think probably value for Harvey even if Dobbins is healthy. So
Well, the
I
other.
like Brooks.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I keep rambling, but I like Brooks too. As I'm saying.
No, no, no. The other choice I will say is you made a good point. I don't want to completely rule out the idea of us thinking about Dak here, because I do think like I'm not mad at the idea of waiting because we could get like a Brock Purdy or like we could get like a Mahomes later, someone who has a bounce back candidate, or like if they're healthy, which I think they will be. But I do think Dak is like to me way too low on draft boards. Like I think like
Yeah,
I don't know, that's just the way I look at it. I think he should be like maybe a round after Joe Burrow,
yeah.
and he's going real low. So I'm not mad at that either. But I'm
I'm
gonna
good
let
with that as well, and I don't hate the running backs at the next turn either. And
yeah.
you also start to think about tight end gets a little hairy from here. I mean, um, so you might need to start thinking about prioritizing one of those. So if we want to go Dak, it's good with me.
I guess that's true too because we need to have a pick for a tight end in a little bit. Unless you want to consider a tight end here too, that's an option. There's a lot of choices here.
Uh, I would let it play out. I'm definitely not. I mean, Kittle maybe with the health being better than we thought. I'm 1,000% not taking Kincaid, who's the top on the board here.
Well, yeah, and well, the
Um,
other thing to think about is also that there's only two teams that would be picking ahead of us that need a tight end. So
yeah,
there's a good chance we'll get most of these guys available. So yeah, I think QB might be the move. I think Dak would go if we don't take him here. So that's my
yeah.
thing.
Tight end, you're kind of down to the best of veteran floor options for me. So I don't need to chase that up here. And I think Dak is Dak.
I still got my steal down there for tight end.
Yeah, I know. We'll debate it, but I'm not with you on that. And I'm the we'll talk about it. I guess
I get it.
I'll
We'll talk.
bury the lead, but
Wow, Alec Pierce went late, and Chris Godwin. Wow, and Quentin Johnston, and Michael Pittman. Damn, that was quite the turn there. Wow,
yeah, the receiver depth is crazy, bro.
that's really
Josh
good.
Downs too. I mean, maybe more of a PPR
I
format,
love my boy.
but so this is where we start to debate tight end. For me, I have a clear selection though at this pick.
Who is it?
So it's my boy Bill.
All right,
Um,
there we go.
I talked to shout out Zach Klein. You'll probably see him later in August. He was asking me about the Commanders' backfield, which prompted me to do some more research, and it definitely seems like they're really looking to feature him this year in the passing game more, which is huge. And it just definitely seems like they really want to make him the guy. So I think at this pick, I think that's a really good
You know
fourth
I'm
running
down.
back for us. So
I love Ja'Cory. I've been taking him as much as I can in this range. I also love Jordan Mason. Those are the two guys that running back for me.
yeah,
I would
I
have
just don't
loved.
think Jordan Mason's that good personally. So I mean, I think he has a good floor, but
I think he'll be way better with the good offense. I think I mean, it just comes down to do you think the Minnesota Vikings offense will be above average or at least average this year? I think with Kyler they could be because they have all their weapons, so you get more touchdowns and such. But I'm good with Ja'Cory over him. I think there's a very fair argument that Ja'Cory's a better pick here, also because he should be the definitive starter, and Aaron Jones is still there with the Vikings. The one other thing I think is probably worth considering if you don't have enough receivers is Josh Downs, but we already have a lot of receivers, so I think running back is more the move here, and then we'll get a tight end with our next pick. So because we'll get one
yeah,
of the old guys. So I think we go Corey. I like this team, man.
Bill. All right, now I guess you don't have much of a choice. You just pick which one of these old tight ends is your preference. I guess we lost. Well, this whole bucket here. So we didn't get to talk about your boy Gadsden because he went.
You went earlier than I
Um,
picked you.
yeah, but yeah, I don't. I mean, actually, what would be really nice to do is to draft him and pair it with one of these old guys. Just
That'd
because
be
I do love,
good.
I
So,
don't. Yeah, I definitely support the upside, but the Chargers offense in general with Mike McDaniel and some of the quotes coming out of camp have me so unbelievably concerned about the targets and the carries being split up against way too many guys. Maybe he's fooling us, but the way he talked about the running backs and then the tight ends, Charlie Kohler is on the field like all the time in early camp for them, and they paid him a lot of money. So I have concerns about the snap counts for Gadsden and if it's going to be enough. But I certainly support the upside, and he tailed off hard last year. But I was the big Gadsden truther even before he played it down in the NFL. But that's my Gadsden.
my thing with Gadsden is as far as tight ends go that are available late, his upside is by far and away the highest, which is why I like him. But I think your strategy is spot on if you can get another tight end that's more of like a floor guy, like one of the guys that's still available. But the reason I like him is the one thing that I would trust Mike McDaniels to do is when he had a great offense years ago, he did use everyone, but everyone was efficient in fantasy and everyone was good. Gadsden is not someone who needs more than like, I don't know, a couple receptions a game to make an impact because he's big, strong, fast. So I think he's someone that could get you more touchdowns than you might think in that scheme, and also have big chunk plays, which is what for a tight end, like if you're averaging like 10 points a week, um, that's more than good. I think he'd be the guy who'd have weeks where he'd have over 20, but then also have weeks where he gives you nothing. So that's where you have to kind of like pick and choose matchups. So, but I do like him a lot for where he's going, right? Because a lot of the other guys going around, I'm like, would I take Kincaid over him? No, I wouldn't. But anyway, where we're at right now, we have the older guys. The debate for me is obviously between Kelsey and Andrews, unless there's someone else here that you really like. I'm missing, but I think I'm good with Kelsey because it seems like you were a fan of him in drafts. I actually don't think that's a bad pick. I think he'll give us some value at tight end down there. So that's probably what I'd lean.
Yeah, I mean, is Isaiah likely someone to consider too? I'm kind of surprised he's maybe this far down, just given when he was paid
Yeah,
by the Giants. I mean, I do think Mark Andrews without likely I think is very interesting, but I do think this is Kelsey's last year, so I think he's going to go crazy with it. And not to get into all the off-field stuff, but like coming off the wedding, I just think he's going to have a big year
I agree.
with
I
the
also think
prospect.
like
So
I also think they're just gonna be more motivated than they've ever been. So
right.
if there was ever a time for them to like, if there was ever a reason for them to be like, yo, let's go win, let's go, have another elite year. This is the one. So I'm good with Kelsey.
And I still don't think that offense has like all that much volume already already spoken for. I guess obviously you're going to get way more ground game volume with Kenneth Walker, but
Mhm.
and Rashi will get a lot of volume, but
But I think those are the things that help Kelsey. Like I think he's way better when he has like someone
right.
opening up the field a little bit more. The concern has been for years people just double him, and there's not really, especially as he's gotten older, there's not much you can do about that.
All right, so here's the squad. Um, it's pretty darn good. I mean,
Yeah, if I got this in a draft, I would be incredibly happy. And obviously, it's biased because we drafted it. But I mean, first of all, I think we get an elite quarterback in the eighth round in fantasy who has the best receiving core in football and a good running back and a good offensive line. Like that's just, I think he's one of the best values in fantasy. I like what we ended up doing at running back, going with A-Chain and Williams back to back because you're looking at two guys who are, balancing each other. Where A-Chain's your like big, like yardage, big play guy, and Williams is going to be chunk, 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 and touchdown. Obviously, with JSN, I wasn't with him carrying the boat. I wasn't even really that concerned about like how great our depth receivers would be. But then getting Garrett Wilson and still ending up with Christian Watson and Marvin Harrison is crazy to me. Like that's four guys I could potentially start on the team. So that works out great because our flex was a young running back who we don't know is guaranteed gonna, you know, be a starter at least early in the year. So that's just good balance right there, man. And then we got good depth at the end. I mean, I'm really happy with this.
yeah, I don't really have any complaints. I mean, the one thing I know it's less of a concern for you typically, but like Dak and Javante together, which to be honest, one of the few offenses that I would be okay having a quarterback and a running back together is the Cowboys. So I'm less
Yeah,
bothered by that.
yeah,
And then you have JSN and Jadarian Price, which the Seattle offense I wouldn't really ideally want to start two guys from, especially a running back and a wide receiver, just because it's not super high volume. So um, that's the only kind of concern that sticks out to me. And I mean, I'm just not the biggest Jadarian Price guy in general, but the nice thing we did is, like you said, with the receivers, we have startable guys from week one. You know, we got two clear options that we could start week one while we wait on Jadarian Price, so it works out well.
yeah.
Um,
Jadarian for me is more of like hey, if we need a second starter or running back, someone gets hurt or something like that,
yeah,
then he could be an RB1, RB2 type for his offense. The flip side also is that's where the other receivers pay off because you put them at the flex. Probably early in the year, I'm probably going to go with Christian Watson because I love where we got him or Marvin Harrison based on matchup. Then our lineup looks great to start. But then if Price starts popping off, I have no problem playing Jadarian and JSN. My thing with the Seattle offense is I do agree with you that they are maybe not like this high volume passing attack, but JSN is going to get his no matter what, and they are going to have to run the ball. So that's why I'm not worried about it. That's where in fantasy, my belief is people worry a little bit too much about having, outside of the typical stack quarterback receiver together. I think people worry too much about having two guys on the same offense. But if one of those guys is absolutely elite, then I'm not worried about it because they're going to get theirs. You know what I mean? Like it'd be like, yeah, I'm not worried about having Jamar Chase and Chase Brown. I would take that. Like, would it be my ideal scenario? Probably not. But if Chase Brown falls to me at the end of the second round, I'm taking him because both of them are going to be good.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really
I think the thing I mentioned earlier, I think we had a good opportunity earlier to take a a onesie higher, just
Mhm.
because like did we need Christian Watson and Marvin Harrison in our, I mean, 3-4.
No, you're right. Yeah.
So that's but I mean, but then again we got Dak and Kelsey. I'm very happy with the spot. So
That's true.
um,
I guess the other question is what would have happened if we took Loveland, for example, um, at tight end, and then we probably end up with Christian Watson as our wide receiver two, maybe, given the way the draft fell after that. Because we would have been, yeah, he would have still been available to us, like with that
well,
pick. So it would have been him over Wilson.
yeah, yeah. I'm still
No, no,
taking
I'm
that.
happy with.
That's yeah.
No, no,
That's
I'm happy with Took Wilson. I'm more talking about if Wilson was not available, and you,
right.
and like and then you're deciding between some of the other guys. If you take Loveland there, you end up with Christian Watson as your second receiver, and I'm not mad at that. So that's another way to approach it. But then you end up with Dak later rather than going with
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, Drake May. So um,
I would be bad at that. I would be bad at that. So I like what we did.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think it actually worked out great for us. I think us getting Dak where we got him was the icing on the cake for me. Not that we couldn't have gotten a good quarterback later, but Dak is like he could be a top five quarterback this year. So
Well, I guess that wraps up our mock draft episode. Just previewing what we have for you the rest of the month. I think the plan is to jump from this in about a week or so after this drops to one of our season previews for the year. In the past, we would do one for the whole league, but it was hard to fit that into a reasonable amount of time. So we're going to split it into 2 episodes, or really 3 episodes to some degree. You're going to get an AFC preview and an NFC preview separately, and then just before the season starts, we're going to do a fun like little hodgepodge where Zach will rejoin us, and we'll do our kind of playoff and Super Bowl picks. Maybe talk a little bit college football just because there won't be any NFL to talk about that week, and then do our week 1 spreads as well. So a little mix and match there. A couple days before the season kicks off on Wednesday this year. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the mock draft episode. Again, keep an eye out for another week from now with the first preview of the season as we jump through draft season and into opening night in a few weeks' time.